every time people are calling me for meetings or I am inviting people for meeting, we go, discuss, but nothing is happening. This because focus on what and not focusing on why. Meetings are not only to discuss, but to provoke the thought process of the other person towards the solution. A leader's role is to ask more future positive questions, lead the conversation. And if the person is dominant or person is somehow, one of the best technique is asking more questions. When I say more questions, I can maybe little trigger asking future positive questions.
Hi, welcome everyone to another episode of Wisdomseed Talks, where we explore how everyday workplace practices impact our mental well-being and performance. I'm your host, Abhijit Jagtap. I work as a professional and an organizational to build a strong mindset, healthier work culture, and deep human connection within those workplaces. Today's topic is one we deal with every day, but rarely are challenged: the impact of meetings on productivity, best practices for effective meeting management. I know this is something a mouthful, but I really know that this is one of the most effective way of how to manage your time when you're working in corporates. So why this series is there? Wisdom Seed is in a mental wellness space, and we are bringing in self-awareness to leadership and team behavior. We are addressing burnouts through this particular initiative, communication breakdowns, and emotional fatigue that has been not been addressed in most of the talk, and it is already pulled under the carpet when it comes to bringing those particular topic to a public forum. So why we are building a practical tools for a healthier mind at work. That is our main part, and this series is going to shine light on the common work habit that quietly erode our mental wellness and offer a real and actionable way to shift them. So that is what the entire crux of this particular series is, and why we are doing it. So today we have Prakash Sharma. So he is a founder of Lead by Leaders. So he is an expert, and he established a credibility in terms of how leadership can be propagated in terms of developing habits which are productive, efficient, and a practical tips to how to utilize your meeting times. So welcome on board, Prakash. I am really honored to have you on our discussion. And today our listeners are going to get the insight and practical walkthrough about how we can effectively manage our meetings and how that can affect our mental well-being. So we can start with a small introduction of yourself, and then we can start with the question and answer that we have lined up for you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abhijit, for inviting on this platform. Great, and kudos to your consistently doing these episodes. So keep it up and running. I'm happy that being a platform on this platform here. So if you want to quickly introduce about myself, in short, if I have to say, I would say 20 plus years been experience, a learning and development professional, then being a leadership coach, Marshall Goldsmith certified coach, ICF PCC coach, and a lot of other certifications I hail with respect to NLP and Thomas assessments. And overall, I support corporates, working professionals, as well as the leaders in the corporate working professionals to go to the next level of the leadership career, which requires most of the significant understanding of leading self, leading others, and leading the business. So these are three aspects which we touch on, and that's a short nutshell about myself.
Wow, great. So I think there would be a lot of facets and dimensions when you're going to talk about a simple topic. What we see as a simple topic as meeting effectivity. I think the more the dimension, more the nuances, what we're going to explore today is going to crystal clear what we're trying to achieve from meetings. All right, so starting with the first question. So Prakash, I want to ask is, what's the problem with the meeting? So the first thing that comes to my mind is, what are some of the issues with meetings that you have experienced in your tenure, and what was your idea about it?
Good. Thanks very much for asking that question. So you have to answer the first point which you said, maybe we may feel that conducting meetings and attending meetings is simple. But in my experience, it's been that even this conducting meetings and attending meetings is very tough and challenging. Let me tell you. Now, we've seen experienced people conduct meetings. And it isn't about just meetings, okay, you have to call for a meeting and, okay, quickly rush up. So, or how meetings are conducted. So there are different ways we look at it. So most of the times what happens, the challenges most of the times comes up is, are meetings reactively conducted or proactively conducted? If this question is being asked to most of the working professionals when I go meet them, and 80% of people quickly they say that our meetings are reactive. That means meetings are called on and off when there is a challenge which is raised up.
Right.
And meetings aren't called with a structure in a meeting. I've got a challenge, maybe in the respective XYZ department, and I need support and help of another department. I call him for a meeting. So this is very commonly seen. And even as leaders, there are many people who are there at a senior level positions also do the same. Then we really identify and look at and observe more deep and ask the leaders, are the meetings really productive?
Right.
And that becomes a question mark. So if you really ask me in my experience how this has been, I have seen many meetings running like this. And this is what we need to really nurture people, nurture leaders in terms of how do you conduct meetings more proactively, scheduled meetings, which adds a lot of value.
Great. So I think the key points that you've highlighted over here is, first of all, is lack of clarity. That is something that has to be established about the meeting. As you rightly said, most of the time meetings are very reactive. They are not planned in such a way that it has to be strategically planned. That is one thing that we have to do, because meetings are very costlier when it comes to time and the kind of hindering of productivity. That is the next question that I want to talk about. That how do you think meeting can hinder productivity?
Okay, so when talk about the cost one side, when talking about a meeting can hinder productivity, I would say meeting does not hinder productivity, but a meeting really adds value to the productivity. Provided if the meetings are conducted alignment to the goals and aligned with what are the specific pointers to solve. That's when it's aligned, and that's when it's going to add value. So yes, if it's hindering productivity, so most of the times, let's understand, define a little more about what is hindering productivity. Please do add in case if there is anything, any other meaning which is you had in this question. So when you say hindering productivity means we are talking about doing a lot of, if it's a manufacturing organization where production is happening and then leaving the production, I come and sit for a meeting and I'm not able to take care of the production. Right? So, or a productivity you're talking about, hindering productivity means a lot of other work in execution which I need to do with my team members. And I come and sit here for a meeting and my team is not able to do complete certain work. If this is what hindering productivity are we meaning, is my understanding correct so far?
Yes, I was also want to incorporate one more point as like the flow of anybody's into a workplace, wherein if you are constantly working on a certain project and there are certain meetings that are aligned in such a way that it just become a checklist activity, it doesn't add up to the any value part of it.
Correct.
And most of the time, meeting becomes more of a distraction than bringing up the value to those particular activities that we are doing in. So this was something that I want to add to that particular fact. Definitely, as you said, provided that meeting adds value, but if it has been planned, executed well, with all the things that we are expecting it to be happening right now. So the flow part is something that is disrupted by meeting when it comes as a distraction, and it becomes a kind of a I think more of a mental disturbance, or when we say that the mental health or the emotional cognitive exhaustion that happens behind investing so much time into meetings. that there is very little of you is left when you go back to the workstations. So I think you brought in that point, and I want you to elaborate more on that.
Very rightly said, Abhijit. So the meeting sometimes is productive. So as I said in the previous one, there are 80% of people who talk about reactive meetings happens, and there are 20% proactive meetings. So though the productive meetings are happening, scheduled meetings are happening.
Right.
And the use of technology, they say, okay, this is the timing meeting, every weekly join this meeting, or a daily meeting join. What becomes very challenge for the people to attend is the clarity of the objective in the meeting.
Right.
The meeting's focus becomes on what rather than why.
Why? Yes.
However, the focus needs to actually be on why I need to be a part of the meeting.
True. Yeah.
So am I really required for the meeting? And this becomes a question mark.
Very true.
Though they all have been marked as a CC, and this is the particular point, and these are the pointers we need to arrest, and we need to come for the meeting.
Right.
So what is the question which is being discussed more rather than why?
Right.
As you rightly said, mental disturbances come, it becomes very heavy for me to look at it. I'm attending so many meetings, but no productivity is happening. Every time people are calling me for meetings, or I am inviting people for meeting, we go, discuss, but nothing is happening. And this because we focus on what and not focusing on why.
Why? True. Very true.
So that's when I said, why is more of alignment with the goals? Why is alignment to the vision mission? And the why is very clear. The mental thought process, what you're talking, becomes very smooth. The why is not clear, and I go sit for the meeting forcefully. Okay, I am bound to sit for the meeting. I have no choice. And that's when, as you rightly said, a lot of mental disturbances comes in a person's mind.
Yes. And I think there is one more thing that I want to put into, as you said rightly, that the person who is into meeting always have to ask the question to himself and the host and the organizer as well, that is that particular person needed in that meeting?
Yes, very true.
Is he going to bring in the value point? And I think most of the time, if somebody doesn't see the value of being present in the meeting, he or she end up being the hindrance into the meeting, because they would input certain things which actually off track you from the meeting agenda. So that actually makes the meeting more exhaustive. That makes meeting as a part of a checklist activity that becomes a non-value added activity into most of our works. And definitely, that is also costing us heavily when it comes to utilization of meetings. So the next question that I want to ask is, what is the cost of the meeting that silently erodes mentally as well? But what do you think? What is the estimated cost of meeting in your organization? Like what you have seen, how it works?
So again, if you look at it, cost of a meeting depends on the person's cost to the company.
That's true.
There are different people with a different cost to company attached. So the cost for a meeting depends on the cost to the company, okay, of that particular employee. So that may range somewhere from thousands to lakh as well. So that depends on person to person of how much is it their C2C for the company is.
Right, rightly said.
So since you've asked this question, yes, so that's when we need to be very clear about why do we really need to invite the person for the meeting. Otherwise, for every meeting, we ask them to come, okay, sit through, we need your value-added points. Then the KRAs and KPIs needs to be defined very clearly.
Very true.
So the cost for the meetings, though now one side, if you really look at it, earlier were the days where we used to have a lot of physical meeting. Now online meetings have come up.
Right.
But though it's online meeting, the time invested is what is related to the cost. And it is not about the physical or online.
Very true.
Time spent, I would here use the time spent rather than invested. Because if we are seeing that a meeting is not actually productive, I am only able to spend my time. But if I'm actually Making it very productive, that means I'm investing my time.
Mm.
So meetings are necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Cost for the meeting, definitely, as I said, it's proportionate to this.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimatum objective to achieve
Mm-hmm.
and then to reach the goal,
Mm.
these cost factors is very negligible.
True.
But if you have proper structured meeting,
Mm-hmm.
then this could be taken care of it very nicely.
Yeah,
But if it's unstructured meeting, then
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a costly affair.
Very true. I had a very kind of an, just when we are talking about cost to the meeting, if we are able to put in an actual cost, what we are, incurring when we have an hours of meeting, and we take all the people who are there in that meeting and we divide those CTCs with the time that are spending into meeting, and we attach that price tag to the meeting, that this is the cost that we are going to incur if all of you are going to be present. So now, if you waste that 1 hour or in 2 hours. So this is what the dollar amount would be there that we are losing out. If that is something, that kind of visibility, if you are able to give it to the managers or the people who are into the meeting, I think they will take it more seriously.
They can. True,
They can,
true.
right? It's when,
Definitely, definitely. Yes. And
yeah.
then we can always create a calculation on that and overall total what
Mm-hmm.
would be the cost per meeting, and this is
Mm-hmm.
what we're losing. We can
Right.
easily identify. Definitely we
Because
can.
this idea I had came from one of the LinkedIn posts that was there, which was calculating what is the utilization cost of every employee in an organization, where there was, if you waste 1 hour of your work, okay, on your work hours, through doom scrolling or checking your social media in between of the work, because it is also said scientifically, if you go to your mobile phones, it takes at least 15 minutes for you to come back into your flow state.
Very true.
So if you are like having that kind of an frequency where you're checking your mobile phone after 2 or 3 minutes, you are preparing yourself to get distracted for the entire day. And if that is
Yes.
what is there, so how much of loss of productivity is there? That is the one concern. Second is
Very true.
how mentally stable you as an employee are there. That is another thing. How emotionally stable, if you're not emotionally stable, there is bound to happen some miscommunication in corporate areas. If you are into an operational area, there would be some kind of wastage, some kind of accident. All those things comes into that parameters. So we are not only looking at meetings as one section, but one cog in the entire clock, which actually, if it's not rotating in a right direction, it is going to is going to have a spillover
Very
in
true.
all the areas that are there. So when I see this particular Prakash, this kind of utilization or this kind of gravity of a meeting, and it is not planned well, and we have seen this in our corporate area, that meeting is something that people are like using as a staple, wherein it has to utilize as an exotic dish, because it is the most expensive dish, that is what you're ordering for. But people are just left and right. They have 10 meetings in a day, and just like this follow up, that follow up, this meeting hurdles, debriefing, all those meetings are there. So when you look at this meeting part, so how do you think meeting time could be better utilized? Is there any solution that you think of, or any practice that you have applied in your work, or when you are into right now as an entrepreneur?
Definitely. So the meeting time, how effectively could be utilized? The meeting
Mhm.
time you're talking about, correct?
Right, right.
So 2, 3 points for that. So number one, I would say, uh, we've seen people to be more self-organized first.
Hmm.
The moment I say self-organized, when you ask really the people the question, is the start early morning, my day is driven by what I have planned, or it is driven by what others have planned and keeping on calling me or messaging me, hey, this meeting, this meeting, this meeting.
Hmm.
If I have planned and I've made my mindset, thought process, okay, hey, I have this XYZ meetings for me to attend today in the morning,
Hmm.
then adds a lot of productivity.
True. Very
But
true.
the moment it's from the external force, it's coming. Hey, this
Hmm.
meeting is there. Reminder one, reminder two, reminder three. You have to attend this particular meeting.
Hmm.
Then I'm thinking that I'm having a meeting I have to attend.
Hmm.
Then the value for the meeting, what I'm going to give you is very less.
True.
Right. So first step is self-organizing.
Mm-hmm.
Before even the day starts, for the early morning or early morning risers, we especially look forward or suggest is with the early morning means do that early morning. People
Mm-hmm.
are late night, people who feel that late night, I am always sleeping late night and all means, I would suggest that be prepared for next day morning and then sleep.
Okay.
Because the moment you wake up
Mm.
and then all of a sudden you get ready, all the people are there going to start off.
Right.
But early morning people, if you have there, early morning also you can take.
Mm-hmm.
So these two, one. So this is number one. First is you need to organize self.
Mm.
Second, to your question, how do you better focus on utilizing the time, correct?
Yes.
When we are self-organized, we know what to speak.
Mm.
Now, when we're not organized, the question which is being asked by anybody else, quickly our mindset takes it to handle that question to
Mm.
all the past what I have experienced.
Very true. Very true. Rightly said.
And the moment a
Mm.
question is being raised, the
Mm.
answers, if you could observe, those all are past driven. That
Mm.
means in the past, last month also you said this XY that was supposed to be completing but is not completed. Why?
Mm.
And then again they'll say that yeah, last month we discussed with this client ABC, but the client is yet to be gone. It
Mm.
isn't about the future discussion. Meetings are kept for discussing about future
Mm.
and not for past.
Mm. True. True.
But in reality, if you really ask people,
Mm.
think about the meetings, what are you really doing?
Mm.
Are your meeting then the meeting, during the meeting, the conversations are really discussed about the past or
Mm.
discussed about the future?
True. True.
So that's when I quote the thumb rule. Our
Mm.
role as leaders to make it very clear for people is analyze the past,
Mm.
but the discussion needs to be about future. When I say analyze the past, you
Mm.
will have
Mm.
data.
Mm.
Our role is to analyze the data, analyze the past,
True. Mm.
but discussion needs to be about future.
Mm.
And that's when the meetings will be led in an aligned fashion and it'll be led towards solution and
Mm.
not towards the
Mm.
problems.
Mm. True.
So to answer this question, what do you feel? I mean, these 2 points I've shared, maybe there's one
Mm.
more point is there, but what do you feel until these 2 points which I've shared, Abhijit?
I truly feel like one thing that comes out and pops out in a very what I can say, a practical way would be developing an asynchronous channels. So we
Very
have a
good.
synchronous channels and we have asynchronous channels. So for the listeners, what is an asynchronous channels means you can send some meetings are just emails. Sometimes you just require one email. Whatever has been covered into the meeting, it can be answered by an email. You don't have to be physically present, as you rightly said, Prakash, that some people are morning people, some people are like late night owls. So in our time management, when we are doing a time management, we have to work with our bodies and with our minds. So there is a guiding principle of our body is that it works on a circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is more of how the sun rises and sets, and on based on that, our body has a certain metabolic responses in terms of how it is going to digest the sugar, how it is going to digest our food, and how energetic we want to feel on a particular day and time in that particular day. So it is depending upon the cycle of the sun that is
Very
there.
true.
And
Very
when you are feeling a certain burst of energy, and when you sense a certain calmness, I think when you are calm, make strategies. When you are feeling a burst of energy, get into activities.
Very true.
Get your hand deep into activity and do it. But we are doing it reverse. We are not even taking the awareness of what is our own circadian rhythm. It can't be some people would follow the moon cycle, some people would follow the sun cycle.
Answer.
So it is totally fine, but if you are aware of it as an individual, and as you said, that self management is very much important in the beginning. If you are not managing and organizing yourself, and if your body and your mind is not working together, no matter what kind of a meeting you enter into, you are going to be one dead log that is going to be there. So first of all, don't be a dead log in a meeting. Make sure that you are at your best time with backed up with data which is futuristic, not of past, as you rightly said. Yes, most of the meeting become a rant of the past. People keep on ranting on what has not happened in the past. Let's discuss in the present and let's delay what is the agenda of this meeting to the next part. It is a common human tendency of postponing things which are in hand, and we are just romancing with the past. That is the main thing that
Yes.
happens. So I think the when you have this meeting utilization, as you rightly said, that there has to be an asynchronized channels, which can be emails. Dashboards are really well. If you are able to develop a dashboard which talks about the live status of what is the progress. Like in our HR department, used to have a dashboards. Usually, what was the meeting agenda? What is the status of the recruitment status? How many people are onboarded? How many people are in pipeline? How many people are in interview? So those were the meeting agenda. We had a dashboard, then that those meetings were gone because
Gone.
we
Right.
we didn't have that kind of, because there is a dashboard, you go and see it, you
Yeah.
don't have to go in that particular part. So I think this is an asynchronous channels when I'm talking about. So when you're talking about meetings and how to utilize, definitely see in that how we can automatize, how we can bring a data which can be visible by everybody as their time and as per as their will and as per their availability, that can reduce or utilize the time
Yes.
of your productivity then on to meeting. Because
Correct.
I think everybody is like, what is the update? Let's get into a meeting. If I'm
Correct.
not clear, let's get into the meeting.
Yes. Yes.
So, and that becomes a bigger hindrance. And as you said, if you want to plan, strategize for future, then get into the meeting room, not about the past. So, very rightly said, Prakash. I think that is one of the great, best takeaway that a person can take away from this question.
In
So,
fact,
yeah.
80% of the meetings happens like that only. When I ask people, they say that
Yeah.
the time invested for a meeting is say 1 hour.
Mhm.
In 1 hour, they tend to discuss 45 minutes will be discussion only about the past.
Mhm.
15 minutes could be the discussion about the future. And it
Mhm.
becomes a question mark. That means that clearly shows that the way forward is yet to be more clear.
Mhm.
They're unable to discuss the way forward or the future, not more than 15 minutes because they don't have anything much clear.
Right. Right.
So that's the point where they stop with that 5 minutes. That's when I
Mm.
said maybe it has to be self-organized first.
Right. True.
That time self-organized that adds value.
Right. Right.
And as you rightly identified, I really appreciate the point what you shared as well. Right. So good one. Continue. Say.
Great. Great.
Yes.
So coming to the next part of our question is, I think we as a tenure people into this particular area, and we have learned most from our mistakes, and most from our fatigue, and most of unorganized meetings. So if I want to ask you, what would be the 5 rules what you follow to make, and what strategy do you use to ensure effective meeting is there? Any rules that you follow by your own self? Like in our previous question, you talked about, like, if the right person is not into a meeting, don't call him. Okay, let's not have panchayat sitting into that particular room and
Correct.
just discussing about those things. So do you govern your effectivity of a meeting by any rules that you follow, which our audience can utilize and make most of their meeting time?
True. So the first rules couple here, definitely on 5 rules we can share.
Hmm.
So rule number one first, the objective of the meeting needs to be very clear.
Right. The purpose of the meeting. Yeah.
The purpose of the meeting being involved. And number two comes why this meeting and why are we doing it now?
Now.
Why are we
Yeah.
discussing it now? That is more
Now.
important.
Very true. Relevance.
Because that
Yeah.
could be there. Yeah, this meeting could be discussed later.
Later as well.
Points could be discussed later, but why now for the meeting? Or why this week for the meeting?
Hmm.
These two has to be first very clear.
Very
Okay,
true.
these two is very clear. That means that shows the prioritization.
Hmm.
The second one talks about actually the prioritization. And if the prioritizations are set and it's very clear, only then people also are coming aligned.
Hmm.
And the meetings information needs to be sent well in advance that we are going to have this meeting.
True.
At least minimum 1 day, 2 day before, or maybe
Hmm.
we suggest 1 week before.
Hmm.
Why we need to send that this particular meeting is going to happen at least 1 week before? Because that's when we give time for people to prepare.
Hmm.
or prepare at least first the mindset to be prepared. And though maybe only during the meeting when it comes, people may prepare, but preparing the mindset is more important.
Very true.
So give information that there's going to be a meeting. It is not on the spot. Okay, I have a couple of questions, and then quickly I'll call for the meeting. No, but give them time, only then they'll be able to discuss. So that means it is about more about, it is not about quickly, I have an talks, I need certain information. So there are two ways of meetings. One is an information sharing meeting. One is a productive, future-based solution meeting.
True.
It's an information sharing meeting is where you give an example, right? So I just want to know the status, how many recruitments are done. This is where we have been. What is the status of hiring? So this information sharing meetings nowadays with all the technology, as you rightly said, it's slowly getting more automated. I have a dashboard, things are done.
Right.
So even information sharing meetings are there. Quickly, you type them in WhatsApp and then say, this is our status, and then send. Have a structure. But what meetings are required is not information sharing meeting alone. What are the challenges, and then what challenges for that, what solutions needs to be discussed. That is what those are meetings needs to have.
Right.
These are first 3 points. Fourth, a meeting is not only to discuss, but a meeting is to decide. Very important point is fourth point, decide. There are many meetings are left out with only with discussions. Okay, फिर बात करेंगे. Okay, ये तो भाव हो गया. Then we'll look at it.
Right.
Then we end with a meeting with we'll look at it. That means there's no decision taken. A meeting without any decision is only unproductive again. Though maybe we might have discussed future, though maybe we have discussed numbers, but this discussion without a decision is not going to add any value.
True.
So in that particular meeting, have we taken at least one small step, a decision have we made? That is what is important for us to make. That's the fourth point. And fifth point, once all the meetings are summarized, the meeting is completed, it's summarized. Today we have technology, all AI, quick summary of every meeting we are getting through AI.
True.
Quick meetings. Earlier, minutes of the meeting, there was used to be a secretary to write the minutes of the meeting, send it to everyone, follow up. But today now we have minutes of the meeting, but minutes of the meeting, very fifth point is the minutes of the meeting and follow up is very important.
Right.
So that's when this follow up we need to do because people are not organized. That's why that remains, that is bringing it to the previous question. If people are organized, then we don't have to follow up. So that's the major point. So I would say for the meeting, the strategies which we operate are these. Are these 5 very clearly set? If this 5 is very clearly set, the meeting is very productive. Out of these 5, where in the 5th point also many people miss. The last meeting would have been conducted. Again, the meeting would have kept this week. The 5th point, what are the key pointers last week we discussed? Only during the meeting we see, this week's meeting we see, it's gone. The purpose is defeated. So ensuring that the minutes of the meetings are clear, ensuring the first one is objective, then the purpose and priority, why now? And from that, third one comes about, as I said, it is more about the, with the routine, repeated, that is sharing, not a repeated meeting, it is about information sharing meeting or solution-based meeting.
Discussion or decision.
Yes. And then fourth is a discussion, just not lead by discussion, just decide. And fifth comes the follow-up. So these 5, if it's very clear, I'm sure the meeting really adds a lot of value. And the strategy, so-called word we can use as strategy. Ultimatum for a strategy is, are we able to reduce time, reduce cost, or improve standardization, improve quality? That is why meetings are kept for.
True. I had a very, these points are really going to be a kind of a, what I can say, a checklist, what our listener can guide or abide to, so that this can be practiced. I think it has to be practiced more than just having a checklist, because every time meeting would be, steer into different direction, as you told, as it is a human tendency. My lawyer used to talk about this. If you're not able to convince somebody, confuse them. So, so most of the meetings, what I've seen is like people tend to, if they don't have a point to make, if they don't have any value to add, they try and make that meeting as a confusion kind of a discussion, which is a tendency that you will see. So I think there are some of the practices that are really more, verbalized and published into our social media, that how Elon Musk and how, Tony Bezos usually go and make their meetings more
Correct.
effective is by Elon Musk says that if you see in first 30 to 1 minute of a meeting, if you think you don't have any value or you don't getting any value out of the meeting, leave the room, just leave the room. You don't have to say anything. You think that you're not able to contribute or there is nothing value for me, I will just leave the room without saying it. So that is one thing that they do. Second thing is that Bezos usually go and he says that we take at least the entire document to read. We give 15 minutes to read a document as an agenda. What is the agenda of the meeting? So why everybody would be on the same page and then they would start discussing.
Yes.
So when I see it as a, mental wellness profession, when I look at this particular meeting as a kind of an event, I always say, and you have already rightly placed that it is a mindset that you have to get into the meeting. What
Correct.
kind of mindset you have to get into the meeting? So start with silence, start with the silence. Because if you're in a meeting with your own chaos and with your own prejudice, and because you know who other participants are, you already have an agenda before the agenda of the meeting itself. So everybody has an agenda when they enter into the meeting. So make sure that when you are getting into the meeting room, and I abide with this particular principle of Japanese that is called as Ichigo and Ichi-e. So Ichigo and Ichi-e means what? The river that you're entering into this point of time. And then stepping back, and then you're coming back into the river. You are different, the river is different. Same
Yes.
goes with the moment. You have to be very cautious about the moment that you're into, because this moment is not going to repeat itself. It is going to be one of that unique moment. It is going to go away. It is going to go away. So
True.
why the seriousness, the mindset of that particular moment would always make sure that you are leaving certain prejudice, ego, and outside of the meeting room, and you are entering into the meeting room. So that can enhance the quality of the meeting.
True.
Because I think most of that I told you, because lot many people bring their own agenda in a meeting, and they are like, this time I'm just going to make sure that nothing works for anybody. I'm going to make certain points that are not relevant at all. And as you said, we are discussing past in the present for future, which is going to be more confusing all of the time. So rightly said, this 5 rules, if you're attaching to it, plus mental wellness or a mindful activity that you can do as a participant to the meeting, I think the quality of the meeting and the way you communicate and connect with each other would enhance. So that is also be one of those tips that I can add up to what Prakash has said as a 5 rules. So there is one more important aspect when you start the meeting. There is a lot of distraction. So how do you handle distraction for dominant personality in the meeting? What is your, tactics or tricks that you have learned and picked up from past so many experience of meeting? So what is your classic one? So what is the dominating personality? Because I have seen a lot many people in meeting overshadows the entire participants who are there, the relevant one most of the time, because
Yeah.
the empty boxes make a lot of noises. That's what I feel like. So what is your tricks and tips to handle those kind of personality?
As you rightly said, start with silence. So that is one.
Mm-hmm.
Second, meetings are not just for talking more. And if such dominant people are there who want to
Mm-hmm.
take control
Mm-hmm.
of the meeting or only say, listen to what I say,
Mm-hmm.
and those kind of a thought process, if they come,
Mm-hmm.
technique would be used is asking questions.
True. Very true. Mm-hmm.
So, meetings are not only to discuss, but to provoke the thought process of the other person towards the solution.
Right.
That's also the purpose of the meeting. Because why are we
Mm-hmm.
coming there for the meeting is
Mm-hmm.
because certain decisions were not being able to take over a phone, or certain decisions were not being able to take individually one-on-one. So in a group, we need everyone concurrence decision. So that's it also the people will come for meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And as you rightly said, people are not the same mindset, same thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So in the meeting only we convince people also.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to really convince a person for a meeting, or not for the meeting, or for a particular decision to be taken, and if the person is dominant or person is somehow, one of the best technique is asking more questions. When I say more questions, I can maybe little triggered, asking future positive questions. Maybe
Right.
make it very simple there.
Mm.
The moment I go and ask a person, why are you not able to complete the task?
Mm-hmm.
It becomes past, it becomes
Mm.
negative.
Wow. True.
The moment
Mm.
I look at it, okay, what steps is required for you to
Mm.
complete the task? I know it is not
Mm.
complete. Now, what
Mm.
steps is required for you to complete the task? What support
Mm.
is required for you to complete the
Mm.
task?
Mm.
This becomes future positive.
Very true. Very rightly spotted, Prakash. Mm.
So, a leader's role is to ask more future positive questions,
Mm-hmm.
lead the conversation.
Mm.
It is not about discussing and the person is there, he also talks his point, the other person talks his point, but how
Mm.
valid are the points?
Mm-hmm.
For us to, points are valid, ask questions on the same point against how this should be connected to the future.
Very
Then
true.
people have clarity about, okay, this is what I need to do.
Mm. Mm.
So, in nutshell, to share, the technique or strategy we use is to ask future positive questions politely.
Wow.
You don't have to get into any
Right.
more.
Right. Right.
The moment
Uh,
the question is about future
uh,
positive, it makes the other person think.
mm. So I call it like calling out the imbalance respectfully. That is what I always do that. Because if there is an imbalance, don't shout it at that particular person. But you have said very rightly. Whenever a mind is given with a why, okay, why, it would always relegate to emotional output of that. Because emotion and why are so connected together. Why this is happening with me? Why I had such a bad luck? Why God is so. When you have a why, you always attach an emotional value to it. But when you say what and how and where, how we are going to go there.
Yes,
So
yes.
now this is where your mind is a solution machine. It is always going to give you solution or a way out, because when you say how, it triggers your frontal cortex. It actually talks with your critical and
Yes.
analytical minds when you say how. But when you say why, it talks with your emotional background. So why questions have to be very sparingly used and very wisely used. That is the quality of the leaders, as you said rightly. Because I was just listening to your analogy, and I felt like this is something that we have learned our psychology of human beings. And you rightly spotted. Don't ask question why, because it is going to take you back to past.
Yes. Very
When
true.
you have a future positive and future plus positive, because future negatives are also there.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then you have a future negative, then also the emotion get trigger, because
Yes.
you will get scared and then you won't take any decision out of it. Then it would be just a discussion, oh, how to be safer in that particular environment. It has to be future positive. The
Positive.
possibilities are
Very true.
this. Yeah, we
Yes.
can do it. We can encourage. We can, ask people to take action in that particular point of time.
Correct. Correct.
That is the main thing. And I think that is very much, I think it's a very good point, Prakash, to ask future positive questions, to
Yes.
handle any dominant question, any dominant personality that is there. Because I think the
Mm.
dominance personality is all about, listen to me, I have a valid point. Listen to me, I am hurt. My emotions are to be validated. Please listen to me. That is what he's trying to tell. But this is
Yeah.
something that is making a lot. But when you look at the human aspect, and now as you in the past, well, not the past, but at two, three questions back, when you talk about technology playing a role into it. So the role of technology in meetings. So how
Correct.
has technology impacted your meeting experience? That how you see it? Do you see it as a double-edged sword, or do you see a kind of a fatigue-inducing activity that goes on? Meeting that are virtual. So what is your take on that?
Yes. Technology has given us a lot of improvements, though there is pros, there are cons, both are there.
Mm-hmm.
Any of these which we need to use it wisely. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we always say.
Mm-hmm.
So any meetings done nowadays, we are, most of the people are in front of a system.
Right.
But ideally, I mean, the work profile I do, I don't follow system. I mean, be in the system throughout the day. So maximum I focus because I am more into the other roles. So people who are on execution job, definitely they would have been sitting with the laptop and system the whole day. So no, my discussions are more on strategy discussions and the next level of planning. So we don't sit completely throughout on the laptop or a system.
Right. Right.
But having been asked the question, definitely as technology has given a lot of advantage in terms of now meetings become very online. Uh, People who used to travel and all earlier for just for people used to travel for one
Right.
meeting.
Right. Right.
The complete travel cost is all cut down now. And earlier people until Corona, I believe not much of the people, I mean, industries were on these respective
Virtual platforms. Yeah.
virtual calls or virtual
Right.
meetings.
Right. Right.
So only after Corona it picked up very nicely. Yeah, though technology IT companies used to do it because at the time itself they were doing onshore and offshore site meetings, so they had to use. But companies within India, no, they were not using much.
Right. Right.
So though even interviews today have become online interview rather than offline interviews. Earlier interviews also people used to schedule, okay, he's from Delhi, senior position, ask him to fly down to Chennai or ask him to fly down to Pune. Let's have a meeting here. Let's have an interview here. And the companies used to take care of the cost of the flight and all for the interview. But now all of that has become online, which is saving a huge cost. So one side, a huge advantage of technology where meetings have become very productive and a lot of cost efficient methodologies have become. On the other hand, but too many meetings happening only on the system without direct interaction is taking a toll on the health or the mental well-being of the person.
True. True.
Ideally, we suggest that a meeting or any online meeting and all, if you're doing, maximum 2 hours. That you could be have back-to-back meeting, at least 45 minutes, take a break, go out, get out from your seat, go out, have a break, have a relaxed mindset, come back again. Continuously sitting in front of the laptop for more than 1 hour itself, it becomes very difficult. There's a Japanese saying to it, right? Or there's I forgot one of the Japanese terminology it is there. So which talks about this only. Which you are talking now. So
I
it
think
helps us.
they are called, those people are called like the people who are not able to, stay away from screens, and they rent, that is called as man booths, something,
Yeah.
I don't know. So man booths, they are booths in which they stay, they eat, it is like a 10 by 10 feet kind of a room,
That's
and
all.
this is the rent. So this is what we are so addicted to multiple
True.
screens, and that is happening a lot. But as you rightly said, that this is what is happening, maximum 2 hours that you can spend on virtual meetings, because if your job calls in, you are like remotely working, if you're not traveling, there are multiple sites which you have to go in. Definitely technology has made that thing possible. We are actually the reach, the spread of an individual role has spread a lot because of the virtual things, and the tools has that particular part. But being constantly online is also playing a lot of with your mental health. And as I told you earlier, that yes, when you have this kind of demands of having a constant touch or a constant communication, the asynchronized mediums are very important. Like as I told you,
Yes.
dashboards. And even if I talk about virtual meetings and virtual tools that people can utilize, which can make an asynchronized tools more efficiently used. One of the tool that which is commonly used by Gen Zs, which is called as Notion. So if you have to take any kind of agenda notes or templates, that you can put it on Notion, you can share with your team and you can get it.
Yes.
Also, teams have a certain kind of mix and match of Notion application. Then if you have any kind of visual collaboration that you have to do, drawing a sketch, designing a product, building a prototype, then we have a Miro. That is one of the application that can be utilized. Then Slack and Loom, we already know how async or uh, acynic updates are there. So we can have any kind of project that I'm working on. This is the update. I won't be sending email. It was like it will just skip
Yes.
on, the what I can say, the chain that is going on, just like manufacturing belt that is there. So we can have those particular stages that is there. And there are a lot of many tools that are making, and now AI
Many
jumping in.
windows.
AI jumping in. There is so many relieved way of whatever you used to do interactively. So now I think what human beings are, in charge of making meeting more collaborative, because
Yes.
AI is taking anything, everything, note taking, making meeting times, making an email shootout after after the meeting has been done. So what a human being can do in a meeting is, as you said rightly, it has to create a sense of collaboration, a sense of psychologically safe environment where everybody's opinion matter, everybody is pulled into the discussion, because that
Yes.
is what the leaders would do. And I always remember Simon Sinek's book that was there, like why leaders eat last.
Leaders will talk.
That there's
Yes.
one book that talks extensively about why leaders has to speak last in a meeting, is because leaders has a very influential kind of a position. So when leaders speaks first, means quote unquote, it becomes a kind of a norm for everybody to not to challenge that particular decision, because
Correct.
everybody would say, "Yeah, if it's coming from such an influential position, then my thoughts and my idea doesn't feel any valid for that." Okay. So while the leader who has to speak at the last, and why it has to say that why he has to eat last, is because
Mhm.
he have to get the pulse of the entire room, of all the people that are there. And
Correct.
then he has to lead that particular discussion or the pulse of the room. So that becomes a very collaborative tool when you are working as a leader. You are
True.
an influential person. Make sure that your opinion doesn't overshadow anybody's ideas, anybody's viewpoint. So collaboration is all about that.
That's
So
great.
yeah. So
I
any
like this.
thoughts, any thoughts on this particular part from you, Prakash?
Very valuable information you've shared, Abhijit.
Hmm.
I mean, the tools which people use for other
Hmm.
meetings in online, how it could be done, also you've shared.
Hmm.
And collaboration, definitely, that's how it needs to be done.
Right.
And then we need to have a right mindset to collaborate. Also is there,
Hmm.
especially cross-functional meetings requires a lot of collaboration. And we call it as
Right.
cross-functional collaboration itself.
Right.
Definitely,
Great.
yes.
Great.
So once those all is being done, that's when it's all is being done towards achieving the goal.
Hmm.
That
Very
always
true.
has that why has to be always in the mind.
Clear. Clear. I think it's a kind of, if I want to sum up the entire whatever discussion that we have, is the truth remains that meetings aren't the enemy, because we always see a meeting as an enemy for a lot many people there, because I just have to go to the meeting. It is just so compulsory. My boss is coming in. What is the enemy? Poorly designed meetings are the enemy. It is
Hmm.
not the meeting itself. If it is poorly designed, definitely it is going to eat up your time. It is going to eat up your mental bandwidth, I would say.
Yes.
And what every meeting should be, as you rightly said, that it has to be serving a purpose to decide, to align, to have a brainstorm, and to connect. So decide, align, brainstorm, and connect. I think these are the entire sum up of what a meeting is supposed to serve as a purpose. You decide on what actions to be take, that is future positive, as you rightly said. You have to align with what entire team's pulse is there, and with
Yeah.
that particular team pulse is there, we have to brainstorm what will the future actions which can be more effective. And definitely we have to have the sense of connectivity within the team, and
Hmm.
everybody is heard, everybody's point is made, everybody is included. And this is how we would strengthen our relationship within the
Yes.
meeting as well. So we have to see in that we respect people time, attention, and mental bandwidth. We create a healthier, more human workplace, rather
Yeah.
than just having a kind of a checklist activity that is there. So, so that is where I think this is my 2 cents about how we have to put in. And I would encourage now our participant, if they have any questions, we can take next 5 minutes of any questions that they want to ask, anything, any challenge that you're facing, and anything that you want to know from Prakash, from his extensive experience, that you want to add up to your own style of meeting. So participation or participant, whoever are there, can unmute themselves and ask questions. Aishwarya, I want to ask. Harish, Jocelyn is also there. Okay. Anyone who want to ask any question about what we have discussed? Yes, Aishwarya.
Yeah. Yes, sir. It is not about asking questions. And my
Uh-huh.
biggest takeaway, right? My biggest takeaway is whatever they may be, we have to know the purpose for what we are doing. That until unless without knowing the purpose, we couldn't do the things properly.
Mm.
In trainings, also for doing energizer, for doing ice breaking, also we used to say, for this purpose we are doing blindly. We should not do anything. First, the purpose of the meeting should be well clear, defined, as we were in the discussion, like how much money we have spent. Rather than quoting how much money we have spent, we can quote like what was the biggest takeaway they are going to took from that meeting. So that was my biggest takeaway, sir. And the mindfulness always, whatever it may be.
Okay,
If you
great.
are we have to be quiet and calm for getting the things right. So that was my biggest takeaway. And thank you so much for giving this wonderful opportunity, Abhijit. Thank you.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Thank you for joining in. Yeah. Thank you for the
Pleasure.
input.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, sir.
much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Anyone else you want to ask? Any insight, anything, any experience that you have? Any add-ons? Harish, Jocelyn? Okay, I think, okay. Anybody is okay, not okay. All right, great. Then I think that was a great insight. I would be very much intrigued by how this particular topic. It looks simple, but there are so many nuances that we are trying to cover because every time, okay, this has to resonate with every person in the team and the manager, okay, because if it is not resonating, if you're
True.
not aligning to that particular part, your meeting is going to be one costlier affair. And
Mm.
as we have a suggestion that was there, that always attach a kind of a cost to your meeting that would give you a really realistic view of how much time
Yes.
and how much of money you are spending on just 1 hour of getting into that meeting room, and that is an unproductive or a productive hours. That is something that how your meetings are organized and designed. So that is also most important part. So this was all from our side. Our comment box are open. Our LinkedIn profiles are there. You can get in touch with us if you require any kind of help in structuring yourself, getting yourself more organized. Prakash is extensively into developing leadership. He has his own programs. He is a certified leader coach, and he is into that particular part. And as Wisdom Seed is always there to make sure that mental wellness would be the centerpiece of all the activities that you want to do. So, Prakash, I would like to really thank you to bring in the logical, the most practical, and the realistic part to the topic that was there, which we talked about extensively. And I would like to thank all the participants who have input
Uh,
and listened to us. So thank you so much. And yes, Aishwarya, you want to share something? I just heard.
Abhijit, I'm sorry for the interruption. I think
Yeah.
we have a question in our chat box.
Okay. Wow. I really, all right. Okay. Jocelyn has a question. Thank you. Thank you, Aishwarya, for bringing it up.
Yeah.
So, how can we cut
Okay.
down time of meeting? Because we used to have it for an hour. Hour means we will not be able to, but still execution is also important in session, how it can be a crisp meeting. Yes, Prakash.
Good one. Um, Very nicely, a good question, in fact. So I would say that if it has to be cut down the timing, that depends on the purpose. How many tasks we have or how many pointers we have based on the objective of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, a meeting can have 3 points maximum.
Right.
I ideally said that 3 points. If 3 points means that meeting will be productive.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more than 3 points, then timing will be little long. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, if it has to be very crisp, means we need to be very well prepared. What is the discussion going to be?
Right.
As we were just talking, right? So can we be prepared for the meeting well in advance? So I said in the early morning or late night. So tomorrow I'm having a meeting. These are the points. So if I'm prepared, then the meeting pointers are very crisp and easier. The preparation isn't there, then the meeting points will be discussed more, brainstormed more, time will be more, and in return, it will be a lengthy discussion. So if it has to be crisp, let's be more prepared. And
Great.
that's my point. Any points to add on, Abhijit, please feel free.
I think the next dimension that I want to give to Prakash's insightful answer is like add a dimension in terms of timeline. So as you're giving 3 pointers, you also have a 3 dimensions given to that particular pointer is like what was done in past, what has been done in present, and how it would be span out in future if we keep on doing the same thing. So if you have these 3 dimensions that are there to that point, 3 points, as Prakash said, have only 3 points, but have the direction of discussion of past, present, and future, how it would affect in all those directions. So past, something we don't have to discuss it a lot because we just have to taking what is the learning that is there because we already had a data that, okay, this is what we have done in past. So we have a data to analyze. In present, if that particular analyst is working towards the present, future positive part. So what is working for us right now? If it is working for us, definitely we want to do it more and refine it more. As Prakash said, we can standardize it. We can make it into a dashboard. So have this 3 dimension, past, present, and future. 3 points and 3 dimensions. So that is something that I want to wrap up in the question. I think Jocelyn is pretty much satisfied with the answer that we have given with lesser confusion in that particular part. So that is a crisp version. 3 points, 3 dimensions. That's it. Okay. So great.
Yeah.
Any questions, guys? Oh, thank you, Jocelyn, for the thumbs up. All right, she liked it, the answer. Okay, great. So I think we can wrap up the session. If we don't have any questions, I would again like to thank Prakash and all the participants to giving their input. And we are continuing this particular series of discussions. We are going to pull in a little bit of more basic topic to start with, and we'll see how deeper the rabbit hole goes in terms of mental health, in terms of strategies, in terms of tips and tricks that we have learned and picked up as what I can say throughout our mistakes and the best practices that are there into the corporate world. And this is how the entire journey would be spanned out in our series of talks. So once again, have a great week and practice whatever the insight is. I would be sharing the outline, the key learnings into our LinkedIn post. So that if you want to, and even if I want to prepare a document, I would put that particular document on Google Drive. So if you want to take a minute of the meeting, because we are talking about meeting, and if you don't have a minute of the meetings, what is the use of it, right? so I will put a document which would be having all the points which Prakash and me have mentioned. This entire brainstorming has lead to certain techniques. So utilize those and make sure that your meetings are far more productive and more mentally safe. So thank you all for listening to us, and we can catch up to the next session whenever it is in plan. Thank you, Prakash. Thank you all, and have a great evening ahead, guys.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you.